Hi guys and gals, this video is about 10 things you should know before you move to San Francisco. So let's go. Number one, you might be aware of this already, but San Francisco is extremely expensive. So before you move here, make sure you have at least 6 months of savings that can get you through life here until you find a job. If you already have a job, that's great. I mean, you're lucky because it'll be much easier for you here. You need to be aware of, because of the high cost of living in San Francisco, a lot of people share apartments with or houses with other people. A lot of people live with roommates. So unless you have a very high paying job, there's a big chance that you might be sharing an apartment or a house with somebody, um, and just be aware of that. And it's pretty common. Um, also, San Francisco is the second densely populated city in the United States after New York. So spaces tend to be smaller, and everything seems to be a little bit smaller than the greater area where San Francisco is located. So things are pretty compact. A lot of people drive smaller cars, and real estate tends to be on the small side, and pretty compact, because of the cost and the limited space. San Francisco is only 11 by 11 miles big, so it's a pretty, um, you know, restricted area, and everything is very, very closely kind of, spaced together. Um, Another thing is, the second thing is that um, I actually didn't know this before I moved here for the first time, but the ocean temperature around San Francisco is extremely low. It's very cold. So although we're in California, the ocean water and the bay water tends to be very cold. The bay actually is a little bit better, but still, compared to, for example, where I come from, the Black Sea is extremely much more warmer than the ocean here, during the summer months, because even there, people don't go to the beach in the winter, but during the normal summer months, my expectation was that at least you can comfortably swim. And this is California. Everybody thinks there's a lot of palm trees and it's always sunny here, and then you come here and it's freezing cold. So just be aware of that. Number three is the weather itself. Now, San Francisco is a really interesting city because the weather can be extremely good or extremely bad, or extremely cold. Jack London famously said that the coldest, what was it? The coldest winter he experienced was a summer in San Francisco, something like that. That's so true. I mean, there's a breeze or some kind of a wind coming from Alaska. It's extremely cold. So what people do is they wear layers of clothing, but still, again, I come from Bulgaria. We have a lot of snow during the winter there. Even compared to Bulgaria in the winter with a lot of snow, San Francisco feels colder. And I don't know if it's the breeze or the weather or the humidity, or I'm not sure, but it feels cold quite often. The warmest month in San Francisco is September, so it's actually one of my favorite months because it does get pretty warm then. The fourth thing you should be aware of is homeless people, beggars in San Francisco. There's a lot of them. My impression is that they're mostly in the downtown kind of area and surrounding neighborhoods. San Francisco tends to get more residential on the west side, and in the northwest, kind of closer to Golden Gate. There are not that many there. But in the downtown area, it's like an epidemic. There's a lot of them. Um, and San Francisco has been trying to solve this problem for many years. I personally lived in the Bay Area for 13 years, so it's always been a problem. And at one point, it was successful. I thought they did put them in housing, but I don't know what happened. They're still there. There's a lot of them, so it's an unfortunate situation. Hopefully, it will be resolved somehow soon. But for the time being, that's the situation there with that. Another thing about San Francisco is, and this is popular, a pretty popular fact worldwide, is that the San Francisco is the center of the gay and lesbian culture in the world, pretty much. So actually, if you look into official statistics, that community is actually not a majority. They're actually a minority, even in San Francisco, but it's huge. Their culture is huge, and it has a very big influence on San Francisco. If you're coming from Eastern Europe or other parts of the world that this type of a culture is not very common, you might feel shocked, or you might feel offended, because you might see naked people in the street. You might see people making up from the opposite sex. There's all kinds of festivals and events and all kinds of demonstration of that culture in the public space. So if you're more conservative, or you're not used to that, seeing that, it could be a shock to you. So you need to be aware of that before you come here, because it's pretty widespread in San Francisco. Another thing is that San Francisco, I feel, is kind of its own little world. It's kind of has its own mentality, its own laws, and it seems like no other place in the surrounding area is like San Francisco. So you need to be aware of that. If when you go there, when you live there or work there, I mean, especially if you live there, if you live there most of the time, you will be part of that. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing, because actually San Francisco is an amazing city. There's very I'm going to talk about this later a little bit, but there's amazing people, very smart people. It's a great competitive city, but at the same time, you can feel sometimes kind of this elitist, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correct, but this elitist type of mentality, like superior type of mentality, like almost like discriminatory in terms of, oh, I'm from San Francisco, you're not, that type of thing. So just be aware of that. But at the same time, it's very interesting because actually a lot of people that live there are not from there. They have not been born there, or they're not even originally from California. So there's a lot of people that are not native to San Francisco that live there or work there. So it's kind of interesting phenomenon. Another thing you need to be aware of is that it's kind of a transient city. A lot of people that go to San Francisco end up moving somewhere else sooner or later. I lived in the Bay Area for 13 years, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. and it seems to be this kind of a temporary stop for a lot of people. Maybe some people move here for work and then they get another assignment somewhere else in the world, so they move on. So there's a lot of this type of a thing, kind of uncertainty, and people living here temporarily and leaving. And it seems like San Francisco is like the stop for people that are interested, that come from really well-known places, other places in the world, like Paris or London or New York or other big cities in the world, and kind of this is one of their stops, so they move on to something else later. Another thing that I mentioned earlier is that San Francisco is extremely competitive. There are extremely smart people there. It's just amazing. You kind of feel people are so intelligent, and you kind of feel blessed. You kind of feel, you're like in an elite group of people when you interact with people from there. So just expect that you'd meet a lot of amazing people with that probably have hobbies or have done things that you've never even heard of, or you've never encountered before. There, just to give you an example, there are people here that are like small plane pilots, and have all these interesting hobbies, and do things that are just amazing, that kind of push their abilities. Maybe they climb very high mountains or something like that. So it's just very interesting to meet these kind of people here. And another interesting fact about San Francisco is that San Francisco itself, I think last time I checked, was like around 150,000 people. There's about 100,000 people that attend the City College of San Francisco. So literally every one in like 8 or so residents attend the City College of San Francisco. I don't think all of them are from the city, but I would imagine a big part of them are. This is just amazing that the City College has so many residents. Such a big proportion of the residents attend City College of San Francisco. And one reason for that is the cost. Actually, just recently, the City College of San Francisco, it was decided to become free for residents. So actually it's completely tuition free. And actually I've experienced this firsthand. The educational level there is extremely high. I went to the American University in Bulgaria, which is an extremely good school, and a lot of people from there went to Harvard and other types of very Ivy League colleges and stuff. And my experience from the City College of San Francisco has been very similar. There are people there that are extremely smart, extremely driven, extremely ambitious, although it's just a college. But I feel the level there is extremely good. And the last thing is I want to mention is that San Francisco, after I've experienced it for so long, seems to be like the biggest, smallest city, or how should I say it, the smallest, biggest city in the world, because the mentality is kind of a big city, but at the same time it's a kind of a small city. It's not one of the big cities in the world. It's only about 850,000 people. So this is like something really interesting, because the population is not so big, but it's people very cosmopolitan, and they really shape the world. San Francisco is very well known. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you like it and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.